Welcome to today's Facebook Live business series. I'm Jessica Pantermuehl, lead instructor for NTA's Career Development course. And here at the NTA, we're not only dedicated to providing you with an exceptional education in holistic nutrition, but we're also dedicated to helping you take that education and turn it into a fulfilling, successful career. And today, I am so excited to have Robin Shirley here with us. Robin Shirley is the founding president of Take Back Your Health International, a company that hosts internationally attended health conferences and retreats across the US. She speaks, consults, and writes about the Take Back Your Health lifestyle and how to reduce the symptoms of chronic illness. Robin is also a certified integrative nutrition health coach and a member of the American Board of Drugless Practitioners. After coaching hundreds of patients with chronic Lyme disease, autoimmune disease, and depression through her nutrition protocol, Robin launched Chronic Lyme Nutrition, a therapeutic nutrition protocol that teaches chronic Lyme patients how to eat to reduce inflammation and depression, increase energy, and strengthen the immune system. And we're also thrilled to have Robin join us speak at the NTA's Business Summit in Austin, Texas, which is taking place on September 29th and 30th. We would love for you all to be there. And Robin, thank you so much for joining us on this Facebook Live here today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, and I'm even more excited to see you guys in Austin, just a month away.
Absolutely, it's right around the corner. Great. So to dig in here to our first question, so you founded an international company, a health conference, you launched a therapeutic nutrition practice, and you also travel the country educating on reducing chronic illness and the Take Back Your Health lifestyle. So I'd love to know where this passion for health education initially began for you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think like many people, it started from a personal experience. And also, I have to give a little bit of credit to my parents too. I guess I was 11 or 12 years old. It was right before 7th grade. And I started coming down with a lot of symptoms that felt like the flu. And long story short, after about 6 months, all of these symptoms rolled into a diagnosis of juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And it was, at that time, it was kind of confusing to my mom and I, because we were sent to holistic doctors and conventional doctors. We were sent to I'm blanking on the word, infectious disease specialist, everything, because they thought it was an infectious disease. It seemed like it. The immune system was reacting, but I ended up with the juvenile RA. And my parents started doing a lot of holistic treatment options for me. So we went through the conventional treatment, of course. I took the drugs to reduce the symptoms so I could function, but I went to an acupuncturist. I went to a massage therapist. We had an EMF specialist come in and look at our house and my bedroom. And this was back in the year 2000. And that was kind of really woo-woo at that point. And they were looking under every rock to figure out how we could get my body back to normal. And so they introduced me to a lot of natural therapies, and I loved it. It was fascinating to me. So I kind of rolled with it from there, and I started reading nutrition books, and that was the area that I ended up getting the most focused on. I remember, let me see if I can pull it up, because we are in front of Google, but there's a book, You Are What You Eat. And that I have to credit as the book that really got me into this. It's Gillian McKeith, You Are What You Eat. So that book, combined with my parents and the diagnosis, is probably what launched me on this journey.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
And can you walk us through that? So you had this diagnosis, you went through this, sounds like pretty intensive health journey as really as I mean that's young to be diagnosed with this situation that you had, really trying to work on health at that point. Take us through that stage of your life and how that led you to your decision and your journey of creating Take Back Your Health.
Yeah. And the story is long and winding. But I'll tell you guys the Cliff Notes version. I want to make sure though, can you hear me okay, Jessica?
I can definitely hear you. I can hear you. And let me just see in our comments if we have anything here that would indicate otherwise. Doesn't look like it. So you're coming through totally clear.
Good. I just wanted to double check on that real quick. Thanks. So Take Back Your Health. It was funny. I have to tell you why this name, why we used this name for the conference. On my journey to look at all this natural healing, I was going through high school and college, as you can imagine. Like you said, I was pretty young, and I came across an elimination diet. I was desperate one day. I was in college. I was a sophomore, and I said, rheumatoid arthritis cures into Google, and Google is pretty new at this point. There were only a handful of pages that came up, and one of them was about an elimination diet, and it had like 8 common allergens, and I eliminated all of them. Within a couple of weeks, all my symptoms were gone. It was remarkable. Wow. And now, for any of you listening, an elimination diet isn't going to cure you, but it can be that powerful that it can alleviate your body of inflammation that quickly if your body is that inflamed. And then from there, you can do other therapies to make the healing more permanent. But that was like another moment in life that just shook me and got me to say, what am I doing? Why aren't I pursuing this? It's really real. Like, there are natural options. And I started going to health conferences and events, and I came home from college. At one point I got so sick, and I said, I know that food can heal me, and I know that there are other options besides the drugs, which were making me so sick. And I came home and I started pursuing classes and workshops and events, and I loved it. I traveled around the country. I went to California. I went to David Wolf's longevity event. I went to a couple of other events, and I just thought, why isn't there any of this in my community? I lived in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., and it's a completely underserved market, and everyone wants to be healthy there too. So I started thinking we need to have events in this area. And I just said, okay, I'm going to do it. I started teaching cooking classes. I went to nutrition school. I got a certification. I did a day-long yoga nutrition retreat. And I said, I'm going to start a conference, and I need to figure out what to call it. And I came up with a list of names that I liked. And at that point, I was kind of mad. I was kind of mad that I was sick. And I knew that a lot of the reasons I was sick were because of what big business and agribusiness were doing. And so I kind of had this like little rebellious like attitude about it. And I thought, I'm going to take back my health. And I thought that's a good name for this. And we're really taking back our health when we decide to, choose these natural options. And my doctors some of them had screwed me over. I hate to say it. Some of them were wonderful, but some of them had really screwed me over, and made my situation worse because they don't know, everything. No one person can know everything about what's going on right now in our health and our planet. So you can't expect a doctor to. But I was a young 20-year-old, and I said, I'm going to take back my health. And that was one of the options. I sent out an email to all my siblings and one of my best friends, and I said, what name do you like the best for this health conference that I'm going to do? And they all said, Take Back Your Health. So So I just went with it, Take Back Your Health conference, and I did the first one in the suburbs of DC in 2011, and it had a really positive response. So we just kept going from there, and then from there, as what you see now on our website is how we've grown and everything. So yeah.
Wow. That's so incredible and so impressive. And if, in case anybody hasn't seen the Take Back Your Health, I would absolutely encourage you to go and check it out. It's great. Absolutely incredible.
Thanks.
I'd also love to know, kind of like taking us back there at that time when you're 20 years old. And two questions for you. One, what about that book that you referenced earlier? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that turning point and how that book was symbol for you. And then also, second following up question to that is, as you were starting this whole journey of creating this conference, where were you at your own health journey at that point? I'd love to hear those two sort of transitionary points.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the book. The book was one of those books that kind of outlined different foods and how they can specifically affect your biology. And that to me was really fascinating because it wasn't just about, like gluten-free or paleo or a certain diet. It was like picking apart different foods like watermelon, kidney beans, celery. And it said, this is how celery affects your body. This is how kidney beans affect your body. And it was just completely fascinating because it empowered me and it made me feel like, oh, this gives me a reason to eat each food. And when I eat them, I'm feeling like I'm really taking care of my body, as opposed to it just being like, I know I should eat healthier, I shouldn't eat that, I should eat this, and blah. I think that's how a lot of people feel about going healthy. But this book just made it feel like eating these healthy foods is going to be the most wonderful thing in the world, and they're going to make you feel great, and you're going to heal all of these different organs and systems in the body. So it was just really fascinating. And she did it in a way that was really easy to understand. Pages were colorful and great pictures. So I don't know. Did that answer your question about the book, though?
Yeah, it absolutely did. What a beautiful testament to the power of education, right? The power of being able to share this message, what this author did for you. Just such a beautiful story of how that really changed the trajectory of your own wellness journey. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And then my follow-up question to that being, so then as you're coming through this yourself, here you are, 20 years old, wanting to take back your own health. And where were you at that point on your own health journey? And was it hard for you to do this huge undertaking of creating a whole conference where you were at that point in your own health?
Yeah. Just to give you a snapshot, and I do this at the conference too. When I do my talk, I show some pictures like before and after. But one of the first conferences, I think it might have been the second one because it was a spring conference right after our first fall conference. I was in so much pain in my feet from the arthritis that I was wheeled up to my hotel room at the end of the day by a volunteer. I was sitting on a bell cart at the hotel. Like it was too painful to walk up there. I had been on my feet all day, and I used to sit because the arthritis affected my feet a lot. I had people with chronic illness kind of talk about spoons or different, the amount of energy that they're allowed each day, basically. I had a certain amount of steps that I could take each day, basically. And once I had reached that number of steps, I had to sit the rest of the day because it became too painful. So I was housebound for a lot of the time there when I was starting up the conference. It was too painful to walk around. I could get stranded, where I felt like I couldn't walk back to my car if I was shopping. And it was in my shoulders too and my neck. So putting on my seatbelt, everything, it was pretty bad. And so the idea was Take Back Your Health with Robin. And that's what, one of our blog is, Take Back Your Health with Robin Shirley. And that's where I blog about my journey. And I interview, our speakers and our experts, and I learn from them as I'm going, because I'm always taking back my health. I don't think I'll ever reach the point where I feel like I want to stop learning and stop healing. So this is a journey with me. And I try to make that, really clear to people at the conference that let's take this journey together and let's learn together and let's make it fun, because doing this alone is absolutely horrible. Being at home by yourself behind a computer screen researching, and that kind of ties into what we're going to talk about in a minute, though, is that being out at live events is so energizing and inspiring that it can supercharge anyone who's looking to heal. It can just accelerate your journey a lot to be around people. But then fast forward, and the snapshot is the before is I'm being wheeled up to the hotel room by one of the volunteers on the bell cart. And then now at our most recent conference, I am actually able to wear high heels. I've had my first child, and I'm able to be up at 5 a.m. with the volunteers at the beginning of the day, and I go to bed around 10 p.m. after I've done the final check on all my emails and the social media accounts for the day, and then I'm up the next day at 5 a.m. and then repeat. So it's just night and day, and I'm still healing, but it's really working. So I just feel like this is a journey for me too, as I'm helping other people as well.
That's so incredible, and I just want to take a moment to first commend you for the bravery and strength and emotional fortitude that it must have taken in those early days to give so much of yourself to something when you were still finding your own way. And I also just thank you for sharing that, because so many practitioners that I work with through the career development course are still on their health journeys as well. And they feel like, how can I help somebody when I'm still dealing with XYZ condition? And I just love that you've shared your story here. And really it speaks to why there's so much you can still do to help others, even if you're still on your own health journey. We are all still on our own health journeys. And I love how you created a community out of that, and that you didn't let that stop you from making such an incredible impact, which you have with your conferences. I've attended several, and they're absolutely incredible. And so thank you for kind of just pointing out why it's so important to not let that stop you, right? That still being on your own health journey. And so one thing I'd love to know too is, so were you in private practice for nutrition before you kind of did these health conferences, or did you jump right into conferences? I'd love to know how that interplay happened with you as a practitioner, maybe working one-on-one, if and how that happened, and how that sort of translated or related to these events that you were running.
Sure, yeah. Well, the cooking classes were the first thing that I started, and because I love cooking, I absolutely love it. I learned by watching Food Network, and then I changed everything to be healthier, and it was a great way to build my newsletter list and get the word out in the community. And so I started with events, and I know that's what I'm going to be speaking about at Advanced Summit in Austin with you guys. So that is my passion. It's the first thing I started with this business, and I don't think I'll ever stop doing live events. Bringing people together is a really magical thing. It's a huge gift to give someone, to bring a group of people together for the same cause, and no matter what the cause is. And it gives me chills just thinking about it. But when you gather people in a room for the same reason, it creates an energy that is indescribable, and things happen that you don't plan, and everyone who's supposed to be there shows up. And if you're open to that magic happening, then it will, and it'll take on a life of its own. So I just tapped into that awareness really early on, and I realized I love this. I can't stop. And I started with cooking classes out of my parents' kitchen. I said, I came home from college. I said, Mom, I need to take a break from school. I can't do this anymore. I'm too sick. I know that food can heal me. I know that I can do something about it. So I came home, I started studying, I started teaching cooking classes. I would lay in bed all morning before the cooking class so that I could stand up long enough to teach the class. And then I'd go lay down right afterwards. And I think my parents would help me clean up even. And then I did a all-day yoga retreat with the help of some other healers in the community that I was seeing for my own health. And then I started the the conference. And what ended up happening was through my education in nutrition and business, I was getting encouraged to start doing like little sessions with people, really general, like asking them about their health and how are you doing and what are your goals and how can I support you, and giving them really general advice, like how to eat more greens, how to eat more fruits and veggies, how to stay away from the sugar. So I started offering those sessions to people, but like most of us getting into this in the beginning, it was really uncomfortable for me. And I found that I struggled with that for a couple years, 3 or 4 years. I didn't really like it that much. And when I started enjoying the one-on-one, and when it started becoming where people were coming to me for it instead of me offering it, was when I went into a specialty. And I think that you guys encourage this a lot. I think that a lot of people talk about how specializing in one area of health not only takes a lot of pressure off of you as a practitioner to know everything, but it also helps people trust you more because you are someone that can really speak to what they're going through. When you say you can help with everything, or when you don't specialize, no one is attracted to you because you're not speaking anyone's language. You're speaking everyone and no one's language at the same time. And then when you say, okay, Lyme disease and autoimmune disease is what I know best, and that's who I can help, then all of a sudden you're speaking the language of hundreds of thousands of people who have this condition. And they get you and you get them. And it just, like, the energy aligns, and then you feel less stressed out as a practitioner. And once I did that, it was so much easier. And I knew how to help them better also. Now, that's not to say I haven't been able to help someone like with high cholesterol or who had a weight loss challenge or something like that. But I feel more comfortable with autoimmune and Lyme. And it just it felt right. So I don't know. It's been only about 2 years, I think, 2 or 3 years and now this has been an 8-year journey, 7.5 years since I started this business. And the first 3 or 4, I was really struggling with this issue. And then the last 2 to 3 years, or maybe it's been more now, it's been a lot easier. I don't know if that really answered the question, right?
Yeah, it absolutely did. Okay. A little bit of feedback. Just going to plug in my headphones and see if that helps it.
Okay.
I think it should.
How am I doing? I don't know if I have.
People are saying you are great, but I am echoey. So one sec.
Okay.
Here we go.
My head's getting cut off too. I'm getting excited. I'm like leaning.
Yeah, I know. I totally know what you mean. Okay, great. Hopefully that's a little less echoey for people, but I just want to say thank you for sharing that. And I love that you got into niching, that you got into why it's so crucial to focus on your target market, because this is something that we start off the career development course with. And just like you said, it not only helps take some of the pressure off of you as a practitioner, because now you don't have to know everything, right? You don't have to be expert in all areas, but also that messaging and that communication makes it so much easier for you to connect with people who can really raise their hand about that specific condition that they're dealing with and that they're facing. So I love that you touched on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And in terms of, so you've created this and I know that you'd run now events in multiple places, right? So you have your DC Take Back Your Health conference, you have your Los Angeles Take Back Your Health conference, you do retreats. And I'd love to know if there is like one tip that you could recommend for people who would love to do this similar sort of thing of making events and retreats part of their practice. In retrospect, looking back, at how you've grown this, how you've created this, what would you tell somebody who's just starting out who would love to get into this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have two small tips.
Great, please.
I was thinking about this. You gave me the questions ahead.
Yeah.
But just to preface them, this is what I'm talking about at Advance, right? So
Right.
If you want to do events, I'm going to tell you everything that I've been through getting these events set up. And it's been, ugly, it's been pretty, it's been everything in between. So I will really explain the challenges and what's helped get the events off the ground. But if you're thinking about starting events, either retreats or conferences or workshops, cooking classes, what I would recommend, first of all, is starting small. Starting small not because I don't believe that you can go big. That's not it at all. It's because you can get yourself into seriously stressful situations, like seriously. I mean, it's a big deal to invite hundreds of people into one space. There are a lot of liability issues. There are a lot of financial commitments, and you don't want to start off on the wrong foot with your audience if you're not prepared. And even if you're a professional event planner, it's still very stressful. So just to go along with the theme of a healthy lifestyle, start small so that you're not so stressed out. That would be a recommendation. And then the other thing that I wanted to say was do something that you enjoy doing. So, for example, I really like cooking. That's why I started with cooking classes. If you don't like cooking, don't make yourself do cooking classes. That's just one example. But and then even, I'll even go as far to say, if you don't like throwing parties or hosting people, then maybe consider that you won't like hosting events, or get a partner to do it with you, or do some kind of, think about it in a way that will make it so that it's really enjoyable for you, because you really got to love this kind of work to do it. Events are highly stressful. There's a hard deadline, and there's no turning back once you commit to it. It's like you're moving forward. Time moves forward. You can't slow it down. So you gotta really love it. And I joke about this a little bit, but like my year is broken into segments based on when those deadlines are. It affects everyone in my life. It even affects my parents. So it's a big deal to do events, and especially the big ones. So you just gotta love it.
Yeah, great tips. Definitely very, very good tips. And what would you say are some of the strategies some of your favorite strategies, or ones that you found most successful for the actual planning and implementation? Because I can only imagine it is a huge feat in logistics to get these things planned, especially of the order of magnitude, the size that you've built and grown your events into. But even just starting out, what can you share some of the planning and strategy that you've used for your events?
Yeah. So everything for me was learning on the job, so to speak. I didn't have any professional or really any education at all in event planning, nor in business. I did undergraduate business, but I really learned on the job. And so I made a lot of mistakes, and I found that a couple things really helped. Spreadsheets. That's supposed to be a joke, but I so organized. Really, organization. I use Google Drive to organize things, and I keep track of everything, because once you start saying things like ticket prices, deadlines for signing up for things, marketing strategies. I have everything on spreadsheets. I have all of that outlined. I have a spreadsheet for promotion. I have a spreadsheet for finances. I have a spreadsheet for so-and-so, so like contact info, speakers, guest list, everything. So every week I take a few minutes to just sit down and record what's happened that week. I try to do it in the moment as it happens, but yeah, especially if you're working with multiple events, it's just helpful to keep everything really organized. I made a note. Okay, yeah. I was looking at my notes to make sure I didn't forget. So let's see, strategies also. This is a good one. It applies to a lot of different industries and topics, but collaboration with other organizations and people is really helpful, because when a business is isolated and doesn't have any connections with other organizations or influencers, it's not going to succeed, and you need that support of people talking about you and you talking about other people and lifting each other up. It's hard to explain, but when you're open to supporting others, others will support you, and that's been a real big struggle for me, because we will go into this mindset where it's really natural, but it's really self-destructive, and we want to get competitive and think, I don't want to collaborate with them. They're doing what I'm doing. I can't, I don't want them to succeed. I don't want to help them, or I don't know. It's this real like self-destructive human tendency. And I've let myself fall into that a lot. And and a lot of people, this is the hard part about it, and I'm admitting this because I don't want anyone else to make this mistake, but because I was so young and immature in these areas of human connection, I didn't know when people helped me so much, I didn't return it, because I was overwhelmed by my commitments, quite honestly. But you need to return and give back, and when you get support, give back support, and really form those relationships with other people, and know that you can't do it alone. If you're starting an event in your community, you need to build relationships and nurture them and support other people in your community too. So, and that kind of leads into, I think, maybe one of your last questions here is how do I market? What was my strategy? And yes, it was very much a grassroots marketing strategy, because I wasn't anything before I started the event. There was no business or platform to stand on. So I won't go too far into that, though. I want to let you guide.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I just want to say thank you for being so candid about that. I think that's such a real, like you said, it's a normal human reaction. And I know that practitioners can experience that as well with one-on-one practitioners, like with their networking and things like that. And that is such a beautiful, valuable lesson about opening yourself, creating that connection, being willing to set aside that feeling of competition and sort of having that community over competition mindset, starting to embrace that. And that's really how we can all grow in all of our business ventures as practitioners, as event holders. So thank you for your openness and sharing that with us, because it's such a valuable, pertinent lesson that can be applied across so many different business models as well.
Yeah.
And I love hearing about that grassroots marketing that you had. Would you say that, I'd love to know just a little bit about how that marketing strategy developed for you over your years of holding the Take Back Your Health events. Did you find, I'd just love to hear lessons you'd learned or any other marketing takeaways that, you might not have started with, but strategies that developed over time, and then kind of tying that into what you would recommend new practitioners doing, both when they're starting out and sort of in that evolution.
Yeah. Gosh, when you ask that question, my brain just like explodes.
Yeah, it's a big question.
The marketing strategy, is really complex at this point in the game because of the magnitude of this Take Back Your Health organization, which isn't even that big, to be honest. But it's complex because the multiple events a year, different kinds of events, different locations across the country. So that's another reason to start small, because you can refine and hone your processes with one event in one location. But it was grassroots in the beginning. I always chose to have a small marketing budget and put most of the finances into the development of the event and making it a better event. I had a lot of people supporting me, as I mentioned before. So a lot of it was word of mouth, flyer campaigns, online calendar listings, social media, help people sending it out to their email lists, all of that. And it's still a great deal of that. But how it's evolved is that it's more strategic in the way that there are deadlines throughout the year. And I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly, but your question has prompted me to bring up a really important point that I'm actually just learning in the last 2 years. I feel so stupid, Jessica. I can't believe it took me this long to figure this out. But you know how we're kind of intimidated to sell our services and events, and that's always a challenge for anybody who's working alone and isn't part of a large organization where the strategy and structure is built in, the sales structure is built in. When I'm creating it myself, when anyone's out there creating your sales strategy or your marketing strategy yourself, you're going to run into those issues of confidence and not wanting to be too pushy. So I didn't send out emails to let people know that my retreat price was going up. What is wrong with this brain? And once I started doing that, you know what? My retreats started selling out so much faster. It's silly.
I mean, you learned the lesson though, which is phenomenal, and now you can use it every year, right?
Yeah. Well, so now I bought myself a Kate Spade calendar. Sad news about Kate Spade.
I know.
I love her annual calendars.
Beautiful calendars, beautiful stationery. Love her stuff too.
Yeah. And I started doing this every year. I buy myself a fresh one in August because it's on the school calendar, and I prepare my marketing calendar for the year, and I circle the days that my email promotions are going to go out, my social media big promotions, my price is going up, every reminder to everyone, the event dates, the lead, everything is on this calendar now. Because I looked at what was working in the past and I thought, wow, I didn't realize that would do that. So then I put it on the calendar for next year as soon as it happens. I know I'm not going to miss it. And you just have to plan these things out really far in advance, much further than I ever thought.
Yes.
So so that's kind of I guess that's a little bit of how the strategy has evolved. And I still do a lot of the work on my own. I don't know if anyone could craft social media posts the way that I want them to sound for my business message. And I did hire a social media person for some time, and it just didn't feel right. I hire people to help with things that it doesn't need to be my personality. So I do get help with website creation, and I get help with administrative stuff and with the event production on the day of. But I'm the one who sits there behind the computer, and I write all the marketing, promotional material, and all that stuff. And I strategize how I want to communicate with the audience there. So.
Awesome. And I know that, the question of what's your entire marketing strategy is a huge topic, and not one that I expect to dig into extreme detail to today. But that's why I'm so glad that that's what you're going to be talking about at the Austin Advanced Summit. So it's a perfect segue for anybody who, obviously Robin she is such a wealth of information, as you can see. Also, just, I have to say, Robin, you have just the most lovely, calming demeanor. I just like, when I talk to you, I just feel like, you just have the most lovely demeanor. And so she's going to be sharing herself with us at the Austin Summit, and she's going to be digging into all things, specifically planning these retreats, events, going into marketing. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you're going to be covering at the Austin Summit, Robin?
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled because it's actually going to help me get my head back in the game. You and I had a phone conversation about this a couple months ago, and it brought up a lot of little tips that I am not going to forget to share while I'm there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the foundation of how to like structure your event so that it's financially viable, because you don't want to miss out on a few important pieces. And then I'll share like maybe a spreadsheet or two that I use to help figure out the budget, because you don't want to go into debt creating an event, because that can happen very quickly, or it can just be something that doesn't really end up serving your business if you don't structure it right, plan it from the beginning. So I will talk about that, but I'm also going to go into a high level of detail on the marketing, and I'm going to share my top secret spreadsheet stuff with the promotion tips, like even Facebook event pages. We were talking about that. There are all these little details with the event pages that you can take advantage of that will help get your event in front of more eyes. So yeah, I'm just gonna lay it all out and give you guys a lot of tips and tools to use, and then I'm gonna be happy to answer questions too.
Awesome. Well, we cannot wait for September, and thank you so much for sharing all that you did today. Again, you can check out Robin at Take Back Your Health Events, which is clubtbyh.com. And you can also find Robin on Facebook at facebook.com/TBYH conference. And that stands for Take Back Your Health Conference, TBYH conference. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us, Robin. And thank you all for tuning in today, and have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thanks so much, Jessica. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.